I'm pretty sure this car's turbocharged.
What's up, guys? It's Drifts and Lifts here. Welcome back to the Drifts and Lifts Epic Volvo Drift YouTube channel. Volvo gravy in your face, blah blah blah. Alright, so today we're going to be doing some stuff on Samuel L. Turbson here. So I've been doing a couple things over the last few days. I got all the AC deleted. I put this cool Eurosport tuning air filter guard thing, kind of keeps the cool air in this area, pulls it from the fender well in there. So I've cleaned it up a little bit. I took it to the car wash. I know it doesn't look like it too well. And I started stripping some of the interior. I'm sorry for this, guys. I did do the sunroof delete panel just because the sunroof and the headliner in this car, for one, was completely falling apart. So it was dropping all that like orange dust everywhere. So I actually just went through with the shop vac and completely cleaned everything out. That stuff just gets everywhere when you're taking the headliner out. And then I figured, I just felt like taking the sunroof out. I'm not a big fan of sunroofs in these cars, just because I'm a taller person, and a lot of the time my head ends up hitting the roof when I'm driving and stuff, especially if I wear a helmet, say if I want to go to the track or whatever. So I ended up taking that out. It's a really good weight reduction, and you guys all know how much I like weight reduction. You get about 40 to 50 pounds from taking all the stuff on the roof, like the headliner and the sunroof. So that's good. I vacuumed out the interior. I decided to keep the carpet, so I'll spare you guys that. I just did the carpet a little bit of vacuum, and it looks pretty good. The rear seat, just from age, it looks like the sun's got to the top part here, so this stuff is fading and crusting off pretty good. This, I'm gonna have to re-glue this on. It's a little bit shaky. Probably take out this stuff. I don't really need that. But other than that, guys, it's pretty much good to go. So what I'm going to be doing today is putting some new wheels on it. And unfortunately, I'm going to be also rolling the fenders. I know this is cringe material for a lot of you guys, but I'm going to try to take it really easy. I'm going to use this heat gun here and keep the fenders really warm so the paint doesn't crack. So hopefully I can get through the whole fender rolling sesh without destroying the paint at all. Worst case, luckily it's a white car. It's pretty easy to match the paint and it doesn't look too bad. So I'm going to be installing these wheels, guys. I did a poll on my Instagram and a lot of you guys said the primes, try them out. Also a lot of you guys said the center lines. I will be probably swapping to the center lines eventually, but the reason I'm going to throw these on today is because all the 5x114 spacers that I have are on Miss Huff. So these wheels right here are actually 5x120, and I have a full set of 5x120 adapter spacers right here to go from 5x108 Volvo pattern to 5x120 Chevrolet, BMW, all those patterns. And also another thing to note is these are only a 25mm spacer. So that combined with the -27 offset wheels is going to be fairly similar to, well, not quite, no, I shouldn't say that. These are going to sit closer in because we're going to go 25mm adapter spacers with the 5x120s, and these ones are -27 offset. Or our other choice is a 32mm adapter spacer with a 0 offset 5x114 wheel. I do really like the look of these centerline wheels, and I will be trying to fit them eventually. So I'm going to take it pretty easy on the fender rolling. I'm going to go to the point where it looks flared out but not like ski jumped like crazy. If these wheels don't end up fitting because they're too wide, I will go back to the drawing board and I'll pull all the spacers off Miss Huff and then get some tires mounted on the center lines. And then I'll do it that way. But I'm really stoked to see how these wheels look. I think they're really cool wheels, and they're almost like the Lamborghini Countach wheels from back in the 80s. Kind of similar style. They're really wide. They're a 15x8, lots of dish on them, so they're gonna look pretty cool. I got this car running really good, other than the fact that it has a misfire in the top end. Actually, it stopped running on me for some weird reason, and I'm actually really worried about a couple things on this car, and that is, so in the early 80s they used a soy-based, I believe it's a soy-based covering for the wires on these wiring harnesses. So if we take a look over here, can you guys see that those wires are starting to actually crack, and the insulation is coming off them? That's actually uncommon for the one over here to be cracking, just because this isn't really near the engine bay heat too much. It's not near the motor. Now if we look closer down here, I see this ground right here. All the insulation is completely crusted off. Now if we followed some of the injector wires and the other parts of the wiring harness down into the whole like harness, I think we'd end up finding a lot of wires that are going to have the insulation starting to crust off, and that's going to cause all sorts of problems. You're going to get wires shorting on other wires, and basically usually what happens is the fuel pump fuse will blow, and your car's not going to run. So I had this happen on a couple other cars. I had to pull the whole harness out and redo everything. I kind of did it the easy way. I did electrical tape and just made sure none of the wires were touching each other anymore. But so I'm a little bit worried about that. That's going to be a problem in the near future with this car, because if that wire and that wire are starting to crust out, I can only imagine what the injector wires and all the ones that have been close to the engine their whole life are going to look like. But it's still running right now, so let's enjoy it while we can. Another interesting thing, guys, I'll mention this before I get into the video. This car actually, the timing was out one tooth. So I popped the timing belt cover off and I noticed, oh, the timing was actually cocked out one tooth. And the car, ever since I got it, it never really pulled like a 740 turbo manual should. Even the factory ones, they're not fast, but they got some go. They're a pretty swift car. And this one just wasn't quite that. It felt almost closer to like an NA car in my opinion. And that was the reason right there. So the timing was actually one tooth out, making this thing not make near as much power as it should. So I got everything set up pretty good. I just got to figure out that top end misfire, and I think it might be the coil getting weak. I actually replaced the distributor. The spark plug wires are good, and the spark plugs are brand new, as well as the coil lead that goes from the coil to the distributor. Hull sensor is good, and the wiring to the hull sensor is also good. So I believe this is going to be a wiring issue in the crusty wires or weak coil or something like that. But I'll figure that out later. Let's install some cool wheels on this car, guys. I'm actually really stoked because it's not really cool driving one of these around with like stock wheels on it. It's not really what you want. Buy my merch or Samuel gets it. Oh, fuck. Alright, guys, so we're about to partake in this activity that it's going to ruin a factory collector edition. Now, this car's not perfect, but I'm going to take it really easy. I'm just going to slowly kind of bend up this lip here. Then we're going to pull the fender out just a hair. I'm going to bend this section, this lip right up here. It's kind of like the Ender fender well lip thing. Yeah, and I'm going to heat gun it as we go. We got that set up right here. And so I'm going to try to do it as cleanly as absolute possible. So, wish me luck. Alright guys, please don't hate me. Yeah, there's no way I was going to get through that without damaging the paint. As you can see here though, there's actually some good surface rust forming under the paint right here. So that wouldn't have been a bad idea to like sand down and repaint anyways. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chip all the paint off, and then we're actually going to sand down this whole area. Then I'm gonna respray it. I'm gonna like tape it off and find like a good matching white color, and then I can make these look good. But as you can see, the fender's not warped. It's not all wavy and gross. It's actually really smooth. So once you put paint on that, it's actually gonna look really good. So I'm stoked to fit this wheel. What I'll probably do is maybe get a little bit hairy, and I might actually cut another coil out of this thing. Sam cut 2 coils out. Usually I go 3 in the front, 3 in the back. So I'm gonna do that real quick and get this thing really nice and fitted. Alright guys, so I ended up cutting 3/4 of a coil out. I think that should do the trick. So that is 2 3/4. One thing I also did is I just trimmed this very slightly. Here's the piece right here. And the reason for that is once you have the really wide wheels on and your tire's turning, a lot of the time it actually contacts here. So hopefully that got it out of the way, and everything should clear pretty good now. So let's fit this wheel on. All right guys, so I got them fitted. These are way too wide. Check out that poke. Maybe when we drop it down, it'll camber in just a hair, but I think it's gonna be pretty aggressive. So here's a moment of truth. That's actually not very low, to be honest. I thought it was gonna be a lot more low. It's poking pretty hardcore, but it looks cool, I'll be honest. You know what though, it's actually probably not going as low as it could be, just because I haven't lowered the other side yet. So maybe we'll wait to do that until I cut more coils out. But it's gonna look interesting cruising down the street like that. Alright guys, so I got the front done. We'll come take a look at it right here. So I ended up cutting a whole coil out of the front. So that is three coils cut essentially. So I think I got it at the perfect ride height. We still got a little bit of fender gap, as you can see right here, but I'm gonna need that just because, as you can see, the fenders don't come past the tire. So if I bottom it out, this fender is actually gonna hit the tire. So now I'm gonna move on to the back, but I'm actually really stoked with how those look. Those are freaking cool looking. I do want to put the center lines on eventually, but I'm gonna rock these for a bit and kind of, you know, take pics with the car and peep it, that kind of thing. And then, like in a couple days or something, I'll try out these wheels right here, the center lines. So time to roll the back fenders. Now I got to be careful with this because I can definitely screw this one up and permanently ruin the body. But as you guys can see, this is actually already pretty damaged here. Same with right here, it's all warped and there's some dents right there. So I'm gonna try my best to make it look clean, and worst case, at the end of the day, we can Bondo this area, make it all smooth and repaint it, sand it down, repaint it. Then it would have like a flared fender without like the crumply drift missile look, which is not what we're going for on this car. So I'm gonna jack up the back, and I'm definitely gonna be cutting more coils out of the rear, just because then the front's gonna be a lot lower than the rear. It's gonna have quite the rake going on. So I'll probably cut another coil or two out of the back and see what it looks like, and then go from there. So let's get started. All right, so that's that. Sorry, I forgot to film that. I'll film the next side. Not that you guys want to see that though. It's kind of like torture for most of you guys. But yeah, so as you can see, I didn't manage to get through it without messing up the paint. But I got a pretty smooth roll. Like there's not a whole lot of warpage, and the fender is actually pretty smooth. So I'm gonna leave it like that. It's definitely not gonna cover the crazy offset of these prime wheels, but hopefully the car won't be too low, and I'll be able to kind of like, worst case it rubs a bit, that's not the end of the world, I'm used to that. But once we put those center lines on, it's gonna be about 27, or probably about 25, give or take, less offset, so or more offset, I guess you should say. Yeah, so that should actually sink it in right to the fenders, and it should fit perfectly. Alright guys, I got carried away. I forgot to show you guys me banging out those rear fenders. None of you wanted to see that, so that's alright. So I actually got through it without completely damaging the fenders. As you can see, they're pretty smooth, a little bit of Bondo and some paint, and those will actually look really good still. I'm pretty stoked on how these wheels look, to be honest. Really looks like a period correct kind of 80s, 90s car build. These wheels are crazy offset, like they're a little bit on the wide side. They don't need to be that wide maybe, but I will say though, this car looks freaking sweet right now. I'm stoked to go drive it around. I'm just not a fan of rocking stock wheels. Like, no one likes that. That's not cool. So I'm gonna go to the gym now, but yeah, that's pretty much our finished product. This fender is a little worse, but Mind you, it is still pretty smooth though if we take a look. As you can see, the spot where it is already dented, it's still kind of greasy, but that's all right. I think this side is a little lower for some reason compared to the other side on the rear. So I might have to like even that out by chopping a little bit more coil off the one side. So I ended up going 3 springs cut in the rear and 3 in the front. So I think that set it up a pretty nice ride height. I'm digging it for sure. So finally I have a cool turbo manual car to drive around again on the daily, and life is good. So thanks for watching, guys. That's basically the wrap up of the video today. Hopefully, actually, my good friend Jake, he's back from work, so hopefully we'll get the diff welded up on this thing pretty soon. Someone mentioned in the comments, like, why don't you get a proper LSD this time? And that's just way too expensive for what you get out of it. And personally, I don't mind daily driving a welded diff whatsoever. Basically every Volvo I've ever owned has been a welded diff, unless it was a G80 locker. Then I did the locker mod. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. Until next time, like and subscribe for crusty Volvo jizz. Peace out.